You ready for the deepest kind of love, the sweetest kind of life? Well, get ready, because that's where we're going to go today. And I would even say, strap in. But before we go there, I have to say something personal. This is a really special day for me, and I'm so grateful for it. So those of you who know me, these tears flow. I heard last week that they're called holy water. I like that, holy water. I became a minister of Creative Living Fellowship 27 years ago. Wow, that was a long time ago. 27 years ago. But before I became the minister, the first full-time minister of that church, I was not the founding minister. And they had different speakers, and finally decided they needed a minister, and they hired me full-time. But before that, the leaders of that church knew the importance of music and the power of music, and knew that they needed a powerful, amazing music director. So the music director got hired before the permanent minister. That really puts me in my place. I know exactly. And that music director's right here, Dr. Mark Broder. Mark, stand up. So for 18 years, I got to work with Mark. And to be back today with him there on the piano, and you haven't lost it, Mark, you haven't lost it, you still got it. And then about a year after I became the minister-ish, this young woman walked into our church. Up. So to have this trio here again together is like a dream come true. So thank you, guys. I love you, and woo, here we go. Yeah, all right. One more personal thing before I actually start giving the talk. I'll get there, I promise. But Daniel Nahmod, who wrote Get Ready, My Soul, an amazing he was young when I met him, not so young anymore. But I was young as well when I met him. Wrote that song, and he was doing a concert at our center one time, and he started to play that song, and then he said, you know, there's somebody here who sings that song better than me. I'd like to invite her up to sing it, and it was Cerise. So, yeah, that deserves, yeah. All right, so I thought today I would somewhat stick with Reverend Mirage's Bible theme. For the last 3 weeks, he's been exploring Bible stories. I'm not going to explore a Bible story today, but instead a chapter in the Bible that is probably the most well-known, often quoted, and beloved chapter in the Bible. The 23rd Psalm. It's only 6 verses, but it packs a wallop of prosperity teachings, of strength teachings, of comfort teachings. 6 verses, and that's all there is. My Bible that I use is this one right here, which was a gift to me when I became ordained. It's the Lamsa Bible. I don't know if you're familiar with the Lamsa Bible, but it is the direct Aramaic to English translation. Slightly different than the King James, really rich and beautiful. And this is a thick book, as you can see. It has 1,243 words in it. That's a lot of words. I thought this morning, before we go into the 23rd Psalm, that I would give you an overview of this book. You got time for that? Just an overview, and then we'll specifically go. Well, guess what? My overview is going to take 50 words. You want to hear the Bible in 50 words? Yeah. Okay, I'm glad you said yes, because I really do want to share this. Here it is, the Bible in 50 words. God lit, Adam bit, Noah paired, Abraham bared. Joseph ruled, Jacob fooled. Bush talked, Moses balked. Pharaoh plagued, people fled. Seas divided, tablets guided. Saul freaked, David peaked. By the way, that's with an A, not E-E. Peaked, as in peaked, not peaked. All right. Saul freaked, David peaked. Prophets warned, Jesus born. Love walked, truth talked. Fear ruled, anger fueled, Jesus crucified. Rose anew, faith grew, spirit flamed, and God remained. 50 words right there. All of this in 50 words. So I know that you all are, most of you are familiar with the Bible, and probably many of us are familiar with the 23rd Psalm. But I want us to get us on the same page by reciting it right now, and then we're going to break it down verse by verse. There's only 6 of them, but I'm going to pack them into our time together. But here it is. If you know this, say it with me. And as you say it with me, say it with your heart. And start to realize, and we're going to unpack these verses, but just start to realize that there's some amazing spiritual teachings in these verses. So here we go. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever. For those of you who are relatively young in the room, some of those words may have seemed a little old-fashioned, a little archaic. I want to put this prayer now, it really is a prayer, a song, the song of renewal, in fact. I want to put this song in words that perhaps you can understand. So here it is, the 23rd Psalm for today. The Lord is my programmer, I shall not crash. He installed his software on the hard disk of my heart. All of his commands are user-friendly. His directory guides me to the right selection for his name's sake. Even though I scroll through a minefield of options, I will fear no bugs, for he is my backup. His password protects me. It's my favorite line. He prepares a menu before me in the presence of many hackers. His help is only a keystroke away. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and my file will be merged with his and saved forevermore. Amen. So on that note, let's take a look at this really powerful, really inspirational song of renewal, which is a guide to an inner life that creates outer experiences of joy and love and peace and prosperity. So verse number 1, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to rest. That's a slightly different word because that actually is the Lamsa translation. The King James says lie down, but I like rest. He makes me to rest in green pastures. These words are really all we need, aren't they? That's a prosperity teaching right there. How can I be in need? How can I be in want when I'm connected to the source of all things? The answer is I cannot. I may think I am, but I cannot. I can rest and be at peace in knowing that the center of abundance is right here. And what better symbol of abundance than a green pasture? Since we're talking about a shepherd here, taking his sheep to a green pasture, what is more of a symbol of abundance to a sheep than a green pasture? Nothing more than that. I love the words of Unity minister and prolific writer Eric Butterworth. It's a little bit long, so don't fall asleep, okay? Stay, because it's really juicy. I want to read the whole thing. He writes, "The Lord is my shepherd," the psalm begins. For you, the harassed, the discouraged, the fearful, this opening sentence of the shepherd's song holds a powerful message. The Lord is your source and your supply. Are you afraid of lack, afraid that you won't have enough to take care of your needs? Well, then follow the shepherd as he leads his sheep into places of plenty, and you too shall not want. In the Orient, during a drought, the hillsides could be parched and dry. Many hungry sheep roamed the same pastures and nibbled close down to the roots for what little grass there was. The wise shepherd knew where, in these times of drought, the grass was still green. He would lead his charges past the hilltops to the valleys of green. Because of his wisdom, they never lacked. The way may have been rough at times, but the sheep followed their good shepherd because they trusted him. Yes, the Lord of our being, the divine resource within, is a Lord of bounty, not of lack. It is his good pleasure to share that bounty with us, but we must trust him and follow him. His way may lead us away from familiar paths that have become barren to us. Though ahead may seem even more desolate than that which we leave behind, let us not doubt, for we are told, if ye abide in me and my word abides in you, then ask whatsoever you will, and it shall be done unto you. He brings us not only plenty, but relief from anxiety, so that we may be at peace and rest in the blessings that are ours. Yes, he makes me rest in green pastures. Our shepherd makes it possible for us to rest in the consciousness of abundance. Eric Butterworth. Beautiful, powerful words. And I suspect we would all sit here and shake our heads and go, yes, 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 I believe that. I believe that. But let me just ask you this rhetorical question. Don't want you to actually answer it. Don't want you to, like share your dirty laundry right here. I don't want that. But what I want to know is, do you believe that when things are going well? When prosperity is flowing, when relationships are good, when my physical body is working like it should, when things are, clicking and life is good? Do you believe it then? Yeah, we probably do. It's easy to believe it. How much do we believe it when things seem to go awry? When all of a sudden that big bill hits that you didn't expect. The job gets lost. The relationship falls apart. You lose a loved one. You get a diagnosis that's scary. Do we still believe it then? That's the question that I don't want you to answer, but I do want you to think about. That is when it matters that we believe it. That is when it matters. I have a statement that I have used for years. I use it more often than I would wish I needed to, but it's ingrained in me. It's in me. So if ever I find myself getting into fear, lack, want, anything like that, no matter what it's about, my phrase is, you are welcome to borrow this. My phrase is, and I say it with some enthusiasm and excitement and anticipation, and it is, I can't wait. I can't wait to see how God works this out. And the subtext of that is, I don't have a clue how this is going to work out. I have no idea, but I know that God knows. And you know what? As I look back at my life, God has always, and in all ways, worked it out. I can't wait to see how God works this out. Verse 2. He leads me beside still waters. He restores, or the old way, he restoreth my soul. These lines, what a wonderful image that's universal in all religions, this image of the still water, the still pond. And when the water is still, it's like a mirror, and it reflects the sky above. And the sky above, symbolic of infinite possibilities. So when we are still, when our mind is still, when there's no ripple of anxiety and worry and upset and what fear and all that stuff going on, when our minds are still, that is the best time where we can know God, when we can know the truth of these words of this psalm, that we can be restored. The Bible says, "Be still and know that I am God." Be still and know that I am God. Mark, I think you should write a song by that name. Actually, he already did. It's an amazing song. Be still and know that I am God. You wrote that for an Easter service, didn't you, at CLF? One of our first Easter. And sorry, I apologize. I digress. We'll talk later. I just returned from Chicago. Just got back Friday night. And I was there for the Parliament of the World's Religions. It was an amazing experience, a little overwhelming. 80 countries represented, 60 religions, or it was the other way around, I can't remember. But anyway, a lot of people, gigantic space, lots going on. Well, one of the events that I went to was a documentary of the Vietnamese Buddhist Thich Nhat Hanh. A powerful documentary. You can see it on YouTube, and it is called A Cloud Never Dies. It's beautiful. It's worth watching. A Cloud Never Dies. I probably should have known this, but honestly, I didn't remember that he is the reason the mindfulness movement started in America. He brought that. He reinvigorated Buddhism and brought the practice of mindfulness to the West. He is the reason that mindfulness is a word that we use here. And mindfulness is, of course, the stilling of the mind. So I want to give you a thought to ponder. If only we could be still and get our bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits, which is a direct quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, by the way, right? I love that. Get your bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits. If only we could do that, we would be restored. That's the message of this second verse. Third verse. He leads me to the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. I think the word righteousness gets a bad rap. You know, we think it's like, oh, you're holier than thou, or you're thinking you're better than me. That's not what righteousness actually means, and certainly is not what it means here. In the dictionary, Webster's dictionary, the first line of the definition of the word righteousness is acting in accordance with divine or moral law. Righteousness, acting in accordance with, now I'm going to use it for our purposes, divine law. So what does it mean to act in accordance with divine law? Well, divine law says that what you plant in it, you reap. Jesus said that, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. Living in accordance with that divine law, living righteously, is to plant seeds of love, of peace, of prosperity, of joy, of harmony, things that are of the nature of God. And when it says, the verse says, he leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Name means nature. Bless you. For his name's sake, in God's nature. So we use divine law righteously when we plant seeds of love and abundance and power and peace. What a great message. What a great roadmap for living that tiny little verse has for us. Number 4. This one is so powerful for me, and I used it in a time of deep need, which I'll tell you about in a moment. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. What are our enemies? Here's a clue. Not people out there. Our enemies live right here. Our enemies are those thoughts, that put us down, our thoughts that say, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, the thoughts that say, oh, I shouldn't, don't be too big, our thoughts that say this is never going to work out, our thoughts of lack, those are our enemies. And maybe we might even say that these conditions out here that I'm not liking, that we might consider that an enemy. But in the presence of mine enemies, God is with me. So I don't walk around quoting the Bible. I just don't do that. And I just don't often, I use affirmations all the time, but I don't often use Bible verses when I need an affirmation. But I walked on fire many years ago. I went to in a workshop by Edwene Gaines. Some of you know this wonderful prosperity teacher. And she had a center in Mentone, Alabama. And I went there for a workshop, a retreat. And the culmination of that was a fire walk, which I knew I wanted to do, I knew I was called to do, and I was utterly knees-knocking terrified to do it. Terrified. So we did all this mental, spiritual preparation for it. We took our shoes off, and we had to walk from the meeting room down a grassy knoll, down a little hill, down to the runway of hot coals. I am so scared. I knew I was to do this. I knew I had to do it. That doesn't, sometimes, little side note here, even though you are called to something and you have no doubt that you are called to it, you still may be terrified, just so you know. That doesn't mean you won't be terrified. It does mean don't stop. Use this verse. Because as I was walking down this hill, I started saying out loud, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. And I said that like 5 times as I'm walking down this hill. And it did give me the strength to walk on fire, which I did successfully. My feet are fine. They would not be in these shoes today if I did not have a successful walk on fire. Beautiful verse. Powerful verse, that God is our security, God is our support, God is our strength, and God is our comfort. Number 5, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. I already talked about enemies. I think I talked about them a little too soon. This is where I should have talked about them, but I already said it, so you heard it. Good. There's a table of plenty in front of us. A friend of mine once said, life is a banquet. Why do we settle for the salad bar? I really don't get that, really. One of the greatest demonstrations that I saw of this, there's a table before me, this banquet before me, was at the Parliament. Not only was there a banquet of food before us, but a banquet of sacred service and sacred experience. The Sikh community, which is many of you probably know what the Sikhs are. It's a beautiful offshoot of Hinduism. Their whole thing in life is to serve. They serve, and they feed people. So there are 3,000 to 5,000 people at this Parliament. That's a couple of 3 people. Every single day, there was a tent outside, and anyone who wanted to eat lunch, they served it for 3 hours. They came in and ate for free. For free. You walked in, you took your shoes off, they put a little headscarf on you. Very attractive, by the way. Didn't really want any pictures taken with that thing. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. You washed your hands, and then they led you through with thanking you for being there. When I would say to them, thank you so much for this, they said, no, thank you for letting us serve you. We sat on the floor, had our little plates, and they came with buckets of food. Rice, naan, yogurt, tofu curry. Unbelievably delicious, by the way, food. And the second your plate was semi-empty, they were back. Would you like more? 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 It was an unending bucket of food. A bounty before us. A bounty of sacred service. A bounty of worshiping and honoring God through that sacred service. It was an amazing experience. Our cups were definitely running over with abundance as we had that beautiful experience. And we felt anointed by that whole opportunity. The last verse, finally, the last verse. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. There really isn't a lot of explanation needed for that one, but I want to read a comment on this from Arthur Chang, beautiful spiritual leader. He wrote, "There is no question about it. Goodness is life's flowing river. It is wherever we are because it is not based upon our having to earn it, but on the nature of the universe itself. That is why it says goodness and mercy, not goodness and justice." I love that. I love that. And then, of course, the very last line is a beautiful promise of eternal life. I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We are infinite beings, never, ever, ever separated from the God of our being. So surely we will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Life wants you to win. Life wants you to be abundant. Life wants you to be at peace and to be secure in the midst of anything that might be happening in your world. That's what this song of renewal is all about. It gives us a roadmap, but it's an internal roadmap. It's an internal roadmap. The journey is inside. But the funny thing is that when we take the journey inside, the outside just seems to always work out. Even if we took a snapshot, it feels like it isn't. As it unfolds, it always does, because God always has our back, and that's what this song of renewal promises us. So I want us to, one more time, go over those verses. But we're going to go over them. I'm going to read it again, and then I'm going to offer you some affirmative words that I invite you to say to yourself after me. All right? So if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. Take a breath. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to rest in green pastures. My needs, all my material, emotional, mental, and spiritual needs are ever met as I turn to the shepherd within. Today, I rest and am at peace in the center of abundance, in the assurance of the abundant goodness that surrounds me. In this I trust. He leads me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. In this moment, I move into the still waters of pure awareness. In this moment of mindfulness, I am aware of my true nature and of my infinite source. In this still moment, my soul is restored. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. I plant the seeds of love and joy, peace and vitality in my heart and in my mind. I live from the nature of my true being, the nature of goodness and love. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Wherever the challenge, wherever the pain, wherever the fear might be in this moment, so is the presence of God. And I am comforted in and strengthened by God's power and God's might. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. God is the source of my bountiful supply. No one and no thing can interfere with it. I am full and overflowing. Surely, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I am confident that my life is unfolding in good, and it is my divine right to live in peace and joy and love and prosperity, now and forevermore. As an eternal being, now and forever, I am one with the God of my being. Now and forever, I am one with the God of my being. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. And that, my friends, is the song of renewal. Namaste.